Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner. Today I'm joined by Richard. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
All right, mate. You're looking well.
Cheers, buddy.
It's a nice watch. One of many. Uh, Jump straight in then. Fury and Garno. I ain't had your opinion on it yet. I've had everybody else's. What do you think, Rich?
um, uh, I think well, as a boxing match, it's a joke, isn't it? I'd be surprised if it goes more than 3 or 4 rounds. It'd probably go as long as Tyson wants to let it go on for, a bit like Mayweather and McGregor. So if he wants to end it early, he'll end it early, and if he wants to play about with him for a while, he'll play about with him for a while. What do I think about the situation as a whole? As an hardcore boxing fan, you want Tyson to have gone down rankings and pick the next contender, whether that might be, even if it's like number 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 in WBC rankings, or somebody else from another who's highly ranked with another organisation, somebody who's a bit of a name. I've always wanted him to try and fight Wallin again, just to prove that that performance was a bad day at the office. But that's never going to happen, is it? That's just an hardcore boxing fan's wet dream. The reality of it is, they don't generate numbers, do they? And they're in the business. They're in the business of generating numbers, and this is going to generate ludicrous numbers. It doesn't matter if it doesn't, because both fighters are already guaranteed massive sums of money. Even the Saudis, as much as they want to get a lot of that back, they're not that interested. They're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it as part of their sports washing, campaign. So they're not bothered. They're not going to lose any sleep or whether this fight breaks even or makes a profit. They're just putting money out there because they can do. And in comparison with the rest of the world, the money that they've got is dwarfs everybody else. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure that everybody watching this video knows this already, but if they don't, the people that are fronting this up have got hedge funds and they've got investments worth more than 500 billion pounds, euros.
Yeah.
And that's just a proportion of them. So if you think about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and you put all their wealth together, it still doesn't touch what these guys are on. This is what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So when they're throwing 50, 60, 70 mil at an event, it's like me and you throwing 20 quid at a ticket.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. They're not interested.
I know Vegas can't match him for money in that, but I do know a little bit about the money on offer out there because Cameron, Cameron's company that does all tech work for us and does work for South Yorkshire Package, and he some money that they were getting for minimal hours work that he's done for him out there is like I don't even know why he bothers with us. I mean, probably because he's a mate, but the money on offer out there for anybody who's got a bit about them is astronomical, isn't it?
It's on a totally different level. It's on such a level it's difficult to comprehend. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail when we talk about John and Mike Tyson and all this sort of crap. But yeah, there's money and there's money and there's money, and it's like boxing. There's different levels to it, but you've got people like Tyson who are multi-millionaires, got so much money. You and I have difficulty getting our head around it. But they've got lifestyles to maintain, and they've got commitments they've got to do, and they get used to doing certain things. And to do that, they've got to fund it. And it doesn't matter when they say they've got more money they can spend in a lifetime. My view is, if you've got 70 million bank and you want to buy an house on an island for 75 mil, you've not got enough money, have you?
No.
But for these guys that are funding this, for them it's nothing. Absolutely nothing. They've got planes, or 2 or 3 or 4 planes worth 70 mil each. This is the kind of, they've got garages that have got 70 million quid's worth of cars in them, tucked away somewhere in one of their houses in a different part of the world. It's phenomenal. It's on a different level. So it's how can you compete with that? And they're not just throwing money at boxing, are they? They're throwing money at golf. They're throwing money at WWE. They're throwing money everywhere, anywhere they want to. Football, football and what's happening in
Well, they've
transfer
all had their
market.
heads turned with football, haven't they?
Oh, well, like I say, you think that Ronaldo and they have, and Mbappe and all these guys, they've got phenomenal amounts of money. They have. But compared to the people that are paying them, it's like any chairman. You look at Chelsea in 10 years past and you think about, all the top earners there and you think, Jesus, John Terry and Lampard are worth tens of millions of pounds. When you compare it to bloke who's paying the wages, he's paying that money out. Abramovich were paying that money out. To him, it's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. Like I say, it's like me and you throwing 20 quid at a ticket. That's what it's like. That's the volume of it.
I agree. What do you think to the guy at Skills Challenge saying Fury Usyk will happen? We always get our own way.
He's right. It will happen. I don't want to be making any excuses for Fury not fighting a proper boxing match, but I have got to say that I'm sort of siding with Bricktop a little bit here. If there's numbers going to be presented like that, and Usyk was obviously waiting for this Saudi deal to come off, and this original December date, we're always going to be more likely to be February next year when it's cool, February, March next year when it's cooler over there. It fits in with most people's timescales as regards Usyk, Joshua, Wilder. If Wilder, because Wilder will need a warm-up fight, and he wants a warm-up fight, even though he's not making much effort to get one. He does need one. It fits in with the timescale. So from Frank Warren and Tyson Fury's point of view, this is just let's get some money while we wait for the big one to come in. So the guy who's heading up Skills Challenges is exactly right. They're just gonna hold that. The carrot's going to be that big, and it is that big that people like Usyk, who probably in my mind and most people's mind is one of the few boxers out there who's got some genuine integrity. You know what I mean? But even him, Wilder, Joshua, Fury, with all the money that they've got, their head still gets turned by this astronomical amount that's being offered to them.
What do you think?
It's just life.
What do you think, Richard, about Bricktop? Because he's changed his opinion, hasn't he? He were one of them guys that believes that you should be fetching fighters on correctly, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden he's just blurting out, going up front foot, and saying, listen, it's we're about putting events on. Well, he was dead against all that, wasn't he, if you remember, a few years back.
Yeah, but it's like every businessman out there, not just boxing, mate. They just bend with the wind. They go whichever way the wind's going. Wherever they can generate money, they'll generate money. That's not different to boxing, football, industry, anywhere else. You can get some people saying, in any business, we only do this, we only do that. Our principles are behind this product, and we want to manufacture that. And then as soon as there's an opportunity to delve into something else where they can make loads of money, they'll diversify and go into that market as well if they think it can generate more cash for them. He didn't want to know about women's boxing, did he, back in the day?
Yeah.
And then as soon as he saw there were a genuine appetite for it, changed his mind, hasn't he? It's the same as everything else.
A bit like Kevin with his horses, he likes to deal with certain people when he sells them in UK, but I think there's one bloke out there. I'm not sure, it's something out there. I don't think it's the Skills channel, but there's somebody who were interested in one of his horses, and maybe we're running around like blue-ass flies with his horse. So I think they even took it out there. Do you know what I mean? This horse, they paid for it to go out there. You know what I mean? It's that serious, isn't it? They want their own way all the time, don't they?
Listen, I'm a very, 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 very small businessman. And if I got the opportunity to do 6 months' work out there for 10 times my normal day rate, how fast do you think I'd be on that plane?
I know you, Richard. You'd be like a rat up a drain pipe, wouldn't you? Not that
I'd be swimming over there, mate. I'd be swimming over
not
there.
that you need it, like.
Well, everybody needs money, mate. We've all got bills to pay.
Yeah. John Fury's going to do Tyson's corner, I've been told by somebody who's in the know, and Mike Tyson's doing the corner for Ngannou, and they've had an handshake. They're going to fight in December. What do you think to that?
So I've not heard that they've had an handshake on a fight in December. This is one thing that I could probably I'd be interested in. So if John Fury were to fight Mike Tyson, we know the result. We know that it's not going to be a real boxing match. We know that John is probably quite willing to go in there and say, "I'm going to give it me all for a round," and get sparked or get hurt and take the money. You know, if he can get 1, 3, 5, 7 million pounds, he's going to take it and then go, "I went in with a legend. I did my best. 2 old boys out there giving it their all. You know, I've never said I'd beat him, but you know, I can do X and Y and Z, and I did it. And I've got balls that can fit in a dump truck and all that. And not many people are getting with the legend that is Mike Tyson, who I named my son after, and blah blah blah." And he's going to pick up a lot of money. I watched that just from a freak show perspective. It holds a different sort of a thing for me. It's like the Elephant Man. Going to see the Elephant Man, isn't it? Back in Victorian days. It's something that you just want to say, well, this is just surreal. How has this happened? You just tune in, you pay a tenner, just to look at it and have your mouth open, saying this can't be real. So I'd probably watch it, to be honest.
I'll tell you a little story about him coming in this boozer years ago. Old John. That's why I put that picture up. He walked in this boozer, right? He had JF Ring on hand. You see it on that profile picture.
Mm-hmm.
And JF jean buckle on. And everybody's saying, how are you doing, John? How are you doing? Big John Fury, big fighting man. And he's like, keep your noise down. I'm trying to be undercover. I don't want anybody knowing I'm out. He's got JF on and some on bracelet and belt buckle. You know, is he a comedy actor or what? I don't know, but he could make up for it. So what are the chances of him beating Mike?
There's more chance of me beating you at snooker when your head's right. There's more chance of that. Listen, it's not going to happen, is it? And even at 50 odd, I mean, Mike Tyson's older than him, I think. I'm not sure. They might be the same age, but listen, it's different. It's just different levels. Even now, Mike Tyson's a lot fitter than him. He's a lot stronger than him. He's a lot faster than him. It's like, you know, it's like the go-kart. It's like the go-kart Yorkshire champion, you know, at 50 odd year old, taking on Jackie Stewart in a Formula One car. It's just, you know, they're both on in years, but it's going to be the same result. I don't even think there'd be a knockdown. I think it'd be like a body punch that probably does him. You know what I mean? He's just got to catch him in the liver and it'd be all over. You know what I mean? Do you
think it'll be a move around like the Roy Jones one were?
Yeah, I think Roy Jones. You could see the fear in Roy Jones's eyes before build up. He didn't fancy getting into a scrap with him. I don't think he wanted to press his button. He was very respectful all the way through. He's Mike Tyson. He's still Mike Tyson.
Through, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's still Mike Tyson.
Well, like reaching punches, Richard, weren't they? Do you know his jabs and that? They were like reaching. You know, like Johnny Nelson used to when they were going backwards. They weren't like any mustard on them, were they?
No, but that's what happens when you're trying to keep out of range yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're just trying to keep out of range, and as soon as he come in, he were grabbing hold of him. It all depends on sort of, I suppose, even in the Ngannou thing. If John Fury starts being John Fury and he starts being disrespectful in build up to Ngannou fight, you might just press Mike buttons because, you know, depending on how many splits Mike's had that day, he's still got it. He's still got it in him, hasn't he? He's still got it in him.
On that aeroplane, he was stoned on that aeroplane, and somebody were annoying him, weren't they?
Yeah, good move that, wasn't it?
He split his forehead open, didn't he, on back at plane?
Yeah, and he gives it the old. I saw another video of him a couple of weeks ago. Have you seen that guy when he goes up to people and says, "What do you do for a living?" And they're in the supercars and all that. What do you do for a living? Do you mind? Oh, they've got a watch on. What? And he crept up on Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson just get that effing camera out of my face. And he said, "Oh no, sorry, mate," you know, and he went, "All right, yeah, you were scaring me," you know, and that's the excuse, isn't it? Yeah, you're making me frightened for my life. So after I knock you out, that's my defense.
Yeah.
when it goes to court, yeah, I had to do it because you know I was frightened for my life, and my kid were there, and I had to pull his neck out of its socket because I was frightened.
Yeah.
Don't put me in jail. They all do it, don't they?
Yeah. Tommy Fury against KSI. I've been told Tommy's not going to fight as a professional again now. There's no money in it for him. Do you think that'll happen? Do you think he'll not go back to the pro game?
Yeah, I can see it. Tommy Fury has got to be the luckiest.
They've all timed
man.
it well, haven't they? They've timed it well, haven't they? I mean, they've navigated Tyson's career all the way through. He's only beat Wilder and Vladimir, hasn't he? He got them. He got Vladimir at right time, didn't he?
Yeah, but I can't disagree with you, Russ. But at the same time, I still think that it doesn't matter how they navigated his career. In last 6, 7, 8 years, he's head and shoulders above everybody else. I always liked him. I always thought he got great potential. I was a bit worried about his punching power until he matured a little bit. But for the last 7, 8 years, he's been head and shoulders above everybody, literally as well. He's head and shoulders above everybody else. So, from a talent perspective and a boxing perspective, he's the real deal. I think that where Tommy's got to think he's the most luckiest person in the world is that he's just on the he's just riding on the coattails of these influencers. He's come along at the right time. He's got the Fury name. He's won Love Island. He's created a platform off both those things, the Fury name and Love Island. And as a result, people like KSI and people like Logan and Jake Paul have realised that it generates numbers and generates pay-per-view buys because they've got so many people following them. And he's reaping the benefits of it. And even if he's only getting 10, 15, 20% of the purse or the money generated, it's millions and millions of pounds. He's got to think he's the most luckiest person in the world. He has got to. And once he's living that, he's already got a child. He's settled down, he's got a child already, which is unusual for a lot of boxers with high profiles to still be hungry. You know, you can imagine people who are on the backside and have got 2 or 3 kids and they're still working plastering jobs during the day. They're going to be hungry because they're on the backside, even though they've got 3 kids. But when you're already worth millions, you've got a kid at home, you've got a wife who you've only been married to for a couple of years, and you're already a multimillionaire. What's his incentive to be a boxer, a real boxer? Andy's not got that much. Andy's not got that much talent, has he? He's 10 fights in now, and he's not. He still should be learning his craft, and he's still a novice. But he's ticking over, is he? He's like journeyman level.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Okay. The bird who got her boobs out at that show and didn't one of them get hit with a wet fish? I mean, what's Calla letting go on here? Where's that all heading?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if it weren't Calla's idea or he didn't have a part. You know, I don't think he was totally surprised, no matter what he says. He might have had a conversation about it beforehand. And it gets back to what we say on a lot of these conversations. I almost feel as though I'm being boring as regards. It's all about trying to generate interest and money. There's not just people in boxing. There's people all over TikTok, all over all over YouTube, and all over Instagram, and they're trying to generate revenue. They're trying to monetize the content, and the more and more people are becoming more and more desperate to get a piece of a pie that's only so big.
Yeah.
And they're trying to go that extra half a yard to try and differentiate themselves between them and the next person. And when you've got people coming into the game who are OnlyFans, famous for being OnlyFans models or whatever you call them, I don't know what the proper name for influencers or whatever, or the strippers or the ex this and the ex that, they're going to resort to what they know. You know, I can see Jordan making a delve into boxing or something at some point in time, because she's skint. She's 40 odd, and it wouldn't surprise me if somebody like her, I'm not saying it's her, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody like her jumped on bandwagon, because they see it's desperation time, and it's a way of trying to create money. And so it's no surprise. It won't be the last time we see something like that.
No, don't you think? No.
No, I don't. No, I think there's people like Ebony Bridges who's going to be kicking herself that she didn't think about it sooner. You know, she comes in weighing with underwear on and all that stuff, and I'll tell you, I'm not bothered. You know, I'm human. I'm not going to be somebody there sat with my trousers around my ankles watching a weigh-in. But if it happens, it happens, and I'm not going to. You know, you're going to think, oh yeah, that's all right, and then move on to the next one. But I'd be sort of like thinking, she'll be stood there thinking, oh, I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd have been the first one to have done that. How many views, how many more subscribers would I get? How many more followers would I get on Instagram? And how much more money would that give me?
Yeah.
You know, she'll be kicking herself.
What about that 6'2" woman fighting the 5' woman? Did you see him at the weigh-in? and the other one, the bloke who had makeup on his face, he were like really tall, and he were fighting a short, really fat fella, wasn't he? That were a bit freaky-ish, wasn't it?
It's. Well, I'm repeating myself. They're just fighting over breadcrumbs, mate. There's a certain pie. It's got so much revenue in. It's not going to get any bigger, and in fact, it's shrinking. It's slowly shrinking. It's not going off the edge of a cliff, but it's slowly shrinking. And when you've got people who are on, I don't know, they're bringing home £1,500 a month to feed the family and pay the mortgage, if they're working a normal job, and they've got a chance of doubling that by raising the profile and getting followers and getting ad revenue, they're going to do it. It's desperation time. It's a lot easier than going out and robbing an house, isn't it?
Yeah. The boxing media and the Crusher situation. Are the boxing media giving him an easy run now? They're all saying he's cleared, and then they've jumped back now and said he ain't cleared. And is he cleared? Is he not cleared? It's all a bit, I don't know. We haven't heard note from anybody, only Ern's camp. It's a bit like me robbing a car, getting caught on camera stealing it, going to court, having the trial, the jury going out, and me going outside on steps at Sheffield Crown and saying, it's all right, we've been cleared, you know, before verdict. Do you think it's a bit like that?
Yeah, I think it is a lot like that. I think that we had, to pick up your point, I think we had some coverage in the first day or two after it was announced. So you got people like Adam Cattrall. You got the usual guys on TalkSport saying what they had to say, and I thought Adam Cattrall summed it up really well. And he tried to make sure that from a fan's perspective, he was explaining exactly where he thought we were with it. And I thought that, I don't know if you saw it, Russ, but that was a good explanation for me. That summed it up pretty well, even though it doesn't take a lot of understanding. And the way your analogy there is a very good way of saying it. I couldn't believe it when it came out and they said, well, you know, I couldn't believe some of, I'm going off at a slight tangent here, but I couldn't believe some of the comments on Twitter, like from Bellew. You've been cleared and I believe in you, and I knew it would always happen. And I saw a couple of comments and they gave it him, and I was thinking exactly the same way. And the fact is, he's got his suspension lifted. As regards, you know, they've lifted his suspension. Nobody's cleared him. Nobody said that he didn't fail those drug tests, and nobody said that he's failed them, and there's some underlying reason that means that the tests were not valid. Nobody said any of that. They've just said we've been legally told we've got to lift this ban. That is different, totally different, and they're spinning that narrative to then say, well, look, you know, we told you all along, you know, we told you all along this and that. You've covered it many times with different people. We know that he's shifted his stance from this 272-page report, and as soon as the WC said it could be from eggs, he swapped his story. It stands out like a sore thumb. It's only a matter of whether boxing fans, hardcore and and the casuals will swallow it. And evidence has said in the past that we'll all swallow it, won't we? That's it's sickening. It's sickening. It makes me feel sick. But because I have flashbacks to our conversation when we were in the car driving up to Darnell, and when it all came out, and that was one of the things that just makes me sick about the sport. That we had this situation with him and Eubank where it was all covered up, and I don't want to rehash all that, but it's just sickening. They will everybody involved in that, everybody ought to hang their heads in shame. The promoters, the fighters, the trainers, the fathers with the except of Chris Eubank Senior, by the way, but they all ought to hang their heads in shame because it stank to high heaven. So forward wind, this happens recently, and you've got people like Bellew and Earn, and everybody who stands to gain from being associated with a positive outcome, all pretending that this is all okay now, and it never happened. It stinks to high heaven. It stinks to high heaven.
Do you think that the Gad and all them lot didn't cover themselves in glory because they've flip-flopped about their opinions on it all? There's only Adam Cattrall stood firm, isn't there, really?
Yeah, they have because they've got a vested interest in how many times
It's not media. It's not a media. What media guys do that though, is it? You wouldn't get Jeff Powell and people like that doing that, would you?
Yeah, but you also don't get non-sports journalists in doing a separate investigation. You should have people who have got no vested interest. So in the media, you've got usually newspapers and news outlets. You've got people who specialise in subject matters, don't you? You've got people that are the boxing correspondent or the football correspondent and whatever. But then you've got serious journalists whose speciality is investigating serious matters. And for me, it's like there's no appetite for somebody with that background to really go in and investigate independently where they've got no vested interest to go and find out what's happening. But I'm almost contradicting myself there, because the upshot is the newspaper that employs both the specialist guys and the investigation guys who concentrate on serious news, they all work for one media outlet, and the media outlet then have got a vested interest in, well, all right, that's your job to do that sort of journalism. But at the end of the day, our newspaper or our outlet need to have access to these people. And so we're not going to bother doing it. There's a lot more in the world that's going on, and we'll cover that. We'll rightly so. We'll cover the war in Ukraine. We'll cover corruption in politics. All that should be done. But this should also be done. But they've got a vested interest in it. I mean, look what's happened with the BBC with Tyson Fury. Yeah. That's done, isn't it? It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I just wish they'd just all come out and give their own opinion. It's a bit like I always have a bit of a dig in my videos about people who've got board licenses, whatever the role is with boxing board control, boxer, training manager, timekeeper, whatever. I do speak to a lot of them, and I ain't got any issues with it. But I just wish that they'd all say the pieces on social media, or come on in and say if you're not happy. But a lot of them are a little bit scared, aren't they? Because they don't want to be struck off from working with main two promoters, or they don't want to get the boards back. So it's like a little old boys club, really, isn't it? It's like people going round in circles in an hamster cage, isn't it?
Look, I know what you're going to say to this. I know the answer before I ask the question. Do you think there's any principles in boxing, Ross? Do you really?
No, I don't really. No.
There isn't, is there?
No, I thought there were at the beginning, and after about 7 days, I thought, oh my God, what's going on here?
There's no principles in boxing.
No.
Sorry, I take that back. There's no principles in professional boxing.
I'll tell you a little story here. Week 1, somebody comes in and gives money to Michelle for tickets, right? 63 tickets at 40 quid comes to X amount, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That means there's 37 tickets left on a book of 100. 29 tickets left, so I worked money for over 8. That was day 1, and that's when I thought, well, I never want to handle money. Do you know what I mean? And I can. If people can't even count to 100, there's a problem, isn't there?
Oh, they
You're
can
dealing with
count.
money, aren't you? You're dealing with money.
They can count 200, can't they?
Yeah, they
That's
just
the
don't.
that's the point. That's the point you're making. Of course,
Listen,
they can count 200.
I've seen people go up in there and say, "Oh, I need 120 quid for my chiropractic." What? Why don't you just say you want to go out on piss? It's let's 10 minutes left on this. It's Big Freeze against White Rhino. Well, how do you see it?
I see it being a massacre. I don't rate Fraser Clark too highly. I don't. I think he's maybe English stroke British level potentially. And White Rhino was English British potential 7-8 years ago. But how many times have I been on your channel and said that he's absolutely totally shot to bits?
Yeah.
He's an accident waiting to happen.
Mm.
He can't. He's never been able to get motivated. I sound as though I've got a downer on Dave Allen. Totally the opposite. I think he's a brave, tough servant of boxing, and he deserves to be a multimillionaire for what he's put into it.
Yeah.
So please don't get me wrong. I'm not slating Dave Allen. I'm worried about him. And I liked him when he was coming up. I was one of these fanboys who liked his weighing antics, who liked his being funny and being honest and just being a Yorkshire lad. And I still like him. That's my point. I don't want him to get hurt, and I don't want to see him or hear about him going at toilet and seeing blood for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and being in hospital and getting knocked out and concussed again and again and again. And potentially that's what's going to happen because he knows he's on a loser. He's going to get X amount of pounds for it. Is he even going to bother training? No, he's going to get a guarantee of X. He's not on pay-per-view money. He's not got any incentive. He's not going to go on. The only thing that could happen is if he thought, right, if I win this fight, I get another big payday. So I'm going to go for it. But I think he knows his shot. Why has he been doing what he's been doing for the last? It must be 2.5 years now since Price fight, is it?
No, it's 4 years since David Price, and he's been in with
4 years.
4 years, and he's been in with 4 guys who've not got winning records.
Jeez, mate, that's flown then since the David Price fight. So that's even worse then. Yeah. And he's been smashed to bits at least 3 times. So Ortiz, Price, who was the other one?
Yoka smashed him to bits, didn't he?
Yeah, Yoka, yeah.
David Price and Bracamante put hands on him, didn't he, as well?
And then all the sparring wars, Usyk.
Oh, he's done 500 rounds with Joshua, more. He's done about the same with Tyson and Huey. And when he sparred Huey, he were a target practice for Huey.
I can believe it. Listen, mate. So that's how I think it's going to go. I think it's going to be a really bad ending for him, and I've got a bad feeling about it. I think he's on a timeline, and the longer he carries on, the more likely something. Put it this way: what's going to happen?
Blood on their hands. Somebody's going to have it, isn't there?
Yeah, and if it's not Dave Allen, it'll be somebody else. And I don't like talking like that because I don't want to be as though I certainly don't want to appear smug when it happens. Totally the opposite. I'll be sick as a pig.
Yeah. Terry Harper, age 26, against Brackus, age 42. She's 5 fights in 5 years. McCaskill beat her some years ago, and she said her legs are gone then. And she said now they're definitely gone after the rematch with McCaskill, and they've dug her up for Terry Harper. What do you think to that?
Yeah, exactly like you said, they dug her up. I think there's not going to be them two ladies aren't going to get a big piece of that overall fight budget, are they?
No.
So because of that, they've got to try and find somebody who's a bit of a name, and she has got a name because she's been a unified world champion, hasn't she?
Long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
Long time ago, yeah. But what I'm saying is, there's still a name, and it's somebody to put on the poster.
Yeah.
Because like you know how it works. There's a budget for a fight. The 2 main eventers get the majority of it, and they agree of how much is left between them. They say, right, if it generates 10 mil, we want to split 9. So you've got to sort the undercard out for $1 mil or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It won't be that, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but the principle's the same. So they've got to try and put some recognisable names on the poster to try and draw people in. And you also know, Russ, that it's only the hardcore fans that usually take an interest in the undercard.
Yeah,
and the
it's
cas-
good.
and the casuals turn in maybe
10
I
o'clock
don't
at
know.
night, they're coming from pub, don't they?
Yeah, they come in
Fina.
and yeah, but even it shows it's the same, isn't it? They come in for chief support or fight before that.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Lee Wood against Warrington. The experts and the bookies are saying Josh Warrington one win in 4 years against Kiko Martinez, who's an old man. They're saying he's finished, Warrington. What do you think?
Agree. I think there is. I don't think he's totally shot to bits, but he's not going to be the same levels he were 4 years ago.
He don't have a plan B, Warrington, does he? Wood seems to have more in his locker, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'd go with that. I think Wood on points or late stoppage.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. The WBC. Does it need some new leadership because they're just doing what they want? They're giving Canelo, Tyson Fury, people like that, Charlo, free gratis, aren't they? Basically.
Yeah, of course they are, because, and it's not just the WBC. They're creating these super champions and franchise champions because it gives them the opportunity to get more sanctioning fees.
Yeah.
And again, and I know you know this, and I'm sure that 99% of the people watching this video know this. But how it works is that basically the promoters pay the sanctioning fees, the basic sanctioning fees, but then the fighters have to pay 3% of what they receive, not what they actually get to take home, what they receive in total. So this is a gross before they've paid who they need to pay, the trainers, cornermen, blah, blah, blah. So if you get Tyson Fury as an example, who gets 20 million for a fight, do the maths. He's got to pay the WBC 3% to 600 grand. I think there's actually a maximum on it, so it might be up.
They cap it at so long, and they have a deal with him, don't they?
Yeah, so they might cap it, but let's say it's 200 grand. So if you've got Tyson Fury as your champion, and he's going to give you 200 grand at least once a year, or you've got Joe Joyce at $1 million, who's going to give you 20 grand 3 times a year.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
You're gonna keep Joe Joyce out at reckoning and keep Tyson with belt, aren't you?
Of course you are. And if you've got a world champion, a silver champion, a franchise champion, and a super champion, you've got 4 times the opportunity to create revenue. It's, everybody can see it, can't they? It's not me and you being smart. It's everybody can see it. You can just look at what's going on and draw your conclusions. The problem is that apart from the people who are really interested, nobody gives a rat's arse about it, do they? They're not bothered. No. They get bought into this. They get bought into the hype. It's like entertainment. It's like buying a movie on Amazon Prime. That people don't see. A lot of people, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people on tough times out there, Russ, and $19.99 is a lot of money. $14.99 is a lot of money to spend on an hour's entertainment. But there's enough people out there who it's just like buying an Amazon Prime. When Top Gun comes out, well, I'm not waiting until it comes on free on Netflix. I'm going to spend 15 quid. I want to watch it now. It's cheaper than going at pictures. It's exactly the same with pay-per-view, mate.
Have you watched Top Gun Maverick?
I have, yeah.
Because you were an 80s kid, weren't you, like me? I did as well. I was sad, Richard. Yeah,
I enjoyed it though.
So I thought it was good, like me.
Yeah. So you get me point, mate. They just it's entertainment, and people throw 15 quid at it because it's cheaper than going out for now. It's cheaper than going at pictures. It's like I say, it's a lot of money to a lot of people. So I don't want to pretend it's not, but there's enough people out there where it's 15 quid. And I've talked about this before. In America, it's $79.99 or 19.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. All right, mate. That's all.
Is that what it is? How many dollars?
$79.99 or $99.99 on some of these in America for football, for boxing, for all sorts of sports, and they just pay it. It's just one of the things that they do.
All right then. Listen, you've been a gentleman. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, mate. Speak to you soon, bud. Bye-bye.